Welcome everyone to the penultimate round of Superbet Chess Classic. We have Wesley So taking on Praggnanandhaa. We are on move number 10. Let's see how we reached here. The game opened with d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5 and Pragg made the bold choice of playing the Benko Gambit here. Wesley went for the slightly offbeat e3 variation. Takes, he's now a pawn up, but after check here bishop b7, you are threatening to pick up the pawn. Bishop d2, a very smart move. You can't take here because queen takes, you have a fork coming on c7. So that's why queen b6, knight comes out to f3, knight takes pawn, a4, e6, and we join the game at this moment. Wesley now has a few options. One of them is to castle. You can see Praggnanandhaa getting up here. He seems to be very well prepared. His time is 1 hour 32 minutes and 57 seconds while Wesley has 1 hour 23 minutes. He takes 10 minutes on the clock here and pushes his pawn to e4. I must say this is a risky decision because it is a pawn sacrifice. Pragg remembers his prep, takes the knight on c3. And actually what he's managed to do is make Wesley go for a sharp line. To play for a win against Wesley So with the black pieces might be one of the most tough things in the world of chess. Because Wesley is so strong, so solid, bishop takes e4 taken. Now while black is now a pawn up from being a pawn down in the opening, white's lead in development is very sizable. So castle seems to be a good move here to increase that lead even further, but Wesley goes knight e5. Look at how he's putting pressure on the d7 point with all his pieces here. And Praggnanandhaa comes back. The right way to defend is queen b7. He defends this, also puts pressure onto the g2 pawn. You can still castle here, but then g2 hangs. So instead he goes queen to h5. And Pragg is now down to 1 hour 1 minute. So he did take a lot of time for his previous move. There's a threat to attack here. And Pragg came back with his bishop. He did not like the fact that this diagonal would open up if he pushed his pawn. So bishop g6. Wesley takes the knight. If f takes g6, maybe queen e2 or queen e5 look really good for white. So first an intermezzo, a check. A very important check, by the way. Because with this, you are actually forcing the king to move. Unless, of course, white wants to trade queens, which is perhaps not a very smart idea. He goes king f1 here. And now, queen takes g6 is not a good move because of queen f3 hitting the rook. And black is in big trouble. You need your queen here. So he takes back with the f pawn, attacking the queen. Queen d1 is a nice move, but queen h3 also makes a lot of sense. The threat is rook e1 followed by queen e6 or rook e6 because of this pin. So Praggnanandhaa goes queen f5. He's trying to somehow trade the queens to his benefit. Take here. This would be really nice position for him. Also after queen f5, now white has to decide where to move the queen. Queen e3 seems like an option which gives white a very nice edge. But Wesley goes queen g3, which is also very natural. He wants to play his queen to c7 and maybe rook to d1. And white pieces do look really nice here. Now let's see what Pragg does next now. Comes back with a glass of water here. And Praggnanandhaa brings his knight out to c6. Not an easy move to make, I must say, because white can take here and spoil your structure. In fact, Wesley goes even queen c7, attacking the knight here on c6, and Pragg goes queen to d5. Putting the queen in the center, taking control of the d file. Wesley now takes the knight on c6. And if you play, by the way, queen takes c6, then after takes, this is a very pleasant endgame for white connecting his rooks. So for Pragg, it's a bold and the right decision to take on c6 with the pawn. You can try and win a pawn here, But there is this very nice tactic, rook a4, because take, there is a mate. So that's the reason why he goes h4, which is the best move to activate the rook on the third rank. Bishop e7. I again like this move a lot by Pragg, because you know what Pragg has realized is that his king cannot castle, but what he can do is get his rook to the f8 square, and in that way his rook would be active here, his other rook would be active here, his queen is very active in the center. So in a very unconventional way, all the pieces would be very active. Now rook f8 played, a very nice move. And Praggnanandhaa gets up from the chair. Queen comes up to e5, hitting the g7 pawn here. And of course, Wesley wants Pragg to take the queen, but Pragg forcing Wesley to do the same. This would really give black an excellent position, and the pawn structure would be improved. So Wesley comes back with the queen. The position is right now around even, but somehow it feels like black is slowly taking over. I love this move, bishop d4. Such a beautiful move, bishop d4, attacking the f2 pawn. And Wesley finally takes on d4, and you will see that the black structure actually now improves. cd4. Time-wise, Wesley has 7 minutes, Pragg has 12 minutes. We are 15 moves away from move 40. h5 played, trying to open up things here. For example, if you take, then rook h5. But Pragg plays this beautiful move, rook f6. The point is, if you take, rook takes, I'm attacking g2. So there's no time to take the h7 pawn. He goes king g1. The position is still around even, but you can see that the tides are turning. King f7, another beautiful move. Now trying to bring the rook into the game via f8. He takes the pawn with a check, and Pragg can take back with the rook. That was his idea. And now very important for Wesley to go rook f3 check to sort of defend the g2 point. But he makes a big error. He goes g3. And that's a very big misassessment by Wesley. Look at Pragg. He's super surprised there. He's like, why did Wesley play this move g3, cutting his rook on the third rank? Now simply d3. And actually, it's a totally winning position here for black. Yes, d3. A brilliant move by Praggnanandhaa. And Wesley So is in huge trouble. Queen d2. And now another strong move would be rook g4 to attack the pawn on a4 and also threaten rook e4 to rook e2. Finds it. Praggnanandhaa finds another beautiful move, rook g4. He pushes his pawn to a5. Wesley does have his own trump card, which is the a pawn. Also, his rook is very active on the h file. Rook e4 played with the idea of rook e2. And rook takes h7 taken here. But that's now a big mistake, because now I can go king g8. First safeguarding my king and then preparing rook e2. Yes, king g8 found here. Good move. Wesley actually also under some time stress here. 8 moves to make in 3 minutes. He comes back rook h4, but Pragg also does not have much time. But I think Pragg knows that he is winning totally here. He finds rook e2, the strongest move in the position. And now the other idea is to bring the other rook to f8. Queen c3. Wesley constantly looking at the big screen there. d2. Planning to play rook e1 check. No, actually planning to play d1 queen directly. Winning an entire rook. The rook comes and blocks. You don't have this check as of now because rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. But rook f8 is a very powerful move. Yes, he finds it. Rook f8 on the board. And now rook h2, defending the pawn on f2. And now just rook to f3, getting in your rook into the game could be a nice idea. The queen needs to defend the e1 square. And Praggnanandhaa making use of his time perfectly here to find the winning idea. You can see him completely switched on. He knows that this is winning. And finds it. Queen e4, another beautiful move, threatening a check. You can't take this because of check, and it's a mate. So he goes rook f1. Now not rook e1 because you lose the pawn here. So just need to be a little bit more patient. Rook f3 should do the trick. Yes, finds it. Queen moves to c5. Wesley does not even have a check in the position. He might be hoping to get somehow to attack here, but Pragg's rook e1 is just game over. And Wesley, with a very nice smile on his face, resigns the game. Praggnanandhaa scores his second win of the tournament. His first one came with the white pieces against Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and the second one against Wesley So. Amazing play by Praggnanandhaa. He just played amazing, beautiful chess, taking the risk in the opening, playing the Benko Gambit, putting Wesley in an uncomfortable situation where he gave him an opening edge. Wesley had to play ambitiously, and then somehow in the middle game he completely outplayed his opponent with a series of strong moves. I really love the fact that Wesley is analyzing so well with Pragg. You know, he is one of those gems in the world of chess who is so down to earth, has great respect for players like Pragg, Gukesh, and but this one is a very key win for Pragg. Look at the standings here. Pragg is now the sole leader with 5 points out of 8, half a point ahead of Caruana, MVL, and Firuza. In the last round, he will face Levon Aronian, and if he manages to beat Levon or even hold him to a draw, he would very well become a champion. Congratulations to Pragg, and I hope that you enjoyed the game.